Greetings, audiophiles and Mass Effect fans. Welcome to my reading of my fanfiction, After the Fall. This is a Mass Effect fanfiction, and as such, most of the characters and the universe belong to BioWare/EA Games. No copyright infringement is intended. However, the scenario and occurrences within this fanfiction are my intellectual property, so if you decide you want to share this with someone, credit me. Please. Part 18. Struggling. Shepard jogged to the medbay. The door hissed open as she approached. As she and her shuttle crew made their way through the ship, they had picked up concerned tag-alongs in the form of Kaidan and Vega. Shepard ignored them. "Shepard!" Chakwas looked up from her work. The commander stood in the doorway, ushering her team past her. Tali was still limp in Grunt's arms. To Shepard's surprise, Cadell rushed forward and took the quarian's still form into his own arms, taking her to a biobed and laying her down gently. "What the hell happened?" Chakwas asked, standing hurriedly and bustling around to gather her wayward instruments and scanners. Shepard explained what they had all been exposed to as she watched Chakwas run her Omni-tool hastily over each away team member in turn, before turning her attention back to Tali. Stone and Cadell did their best to help, acting as nurses. It was strange to see the Rachni scuttling around, holding the tools that Chakwas would need in several of his limbs. "I feel fine now," Shepard was finishing her story. She stood beside her biobed, having only deigned to sit on it for the few moments it had taken Chakwas to scan her. "Garrus? Joker?" "Slight headache," Garrus admitted, running a hand over his crest, distractedly. "Same." Joker sat with his hands in his lap, twisting them into tight fists. Shepard could feel her people's fear and tension. She hated it, like the taste of blood in her mouth. Her own heart was beating quickly, still ready to fight. She was barely keeping her anger under control for the sake of her men. She prodded her lip with her tongue where she had chewed a deep gouge. She tasted the zest of pain and focused on it rather than her rage. "You don't seem to have sustained any lasting damage," Chakwas said. "Tali will be all right as well. The pain caused her to pass out. I gave her a sedative so she can continue to sleep it off. She'll probably feel better than the rest of you in a few hours. As for what happened to you, I'm not certain. It's clear your minds were attacked, but I do not know how or why." "I can guess why," said Joker. "One of the quarians poked a Reaper, and I don't think it liked that." Everyone was silent for a long moment. Shepard felt her breath coming in panicked little huffs as Kaidan finally spoke what they were all thinking. "If the Reapers reacted to one of them having its brain touched, doesn't that mean they're awake now?" No one answered him. "Computer!" Shepard snapped, her voice too loud. "Is there any activity output, any sign of life from the Reapers?" "Negative, Commander," the computer responded in its monotone, as though this was all perfectly normal and not a perfectly good reason to piss yourself. Cadell was looking at Chakwas' scans of the away team. "Judging from the parts of your brain that lit up on this scan, you were all attacked by a form of indoctrination. If you had not all been resistant, you would certainly have succumbed immediately. The Reapers have the power, in a crisis, to indoctrinate those aboard them instantly. I think this was a very effective test of my theories." "Test of your theories?" Shepard rounded on the scientist. "Test of your theories?" She backed him against a wall. He cowered, arms raised to protect his face. "Shepard!" Chakwas said, her tone stern like a mother scolding a child. "You mean to tell me that if you'd been wrong, we would have all ended up as mindless husks? You put my people in mortal danger, and now you just sit there celebrating your theory? The Reapers are probably still alive, and you're patting yourself on the back?" She raised a fist. Before anyone could react, she slammed it into the bulkhead beside the terrified Cadell's ear. She turned in a smart about-face and marched out of the medbay, ignoring the calls for her to wait or come back. She gritted her teeth, heading for the lift at top speed. The door closed her in before anyone could catch her. The lift crawled upward as she stood, silent and stiff as a rock, eyes front. Once inside the empty hangar bay, she allowed herself to scream. She allowed the bile sitting in her chest to be free. Her yell, more like a roar than anything, rattled the bulkheads and echoed all around her. She marched over to where Vega kept his punching bag and went at it with bare knuckles, pounding again and again, not feeling the pain as the bones in her hands protested. Sweat flew from her forehead, mixing with the blood that spattered from her lip. She didn't hear him come in, barely noticed as he moved to hold the punching bag. She just kept striking and striking. She raised her knee for a brutal blow, her elbows, 1, 2. She kicked. The sheer power of it almost knocked Garrus off his feet. He came around the punching bag then, still wearing his armor from the mission, as she was her own. He tackled her to the floor. They tangled, Shepard moving with practiced efficiency to dislodge him. Her body was running on muscle memory. No other thoughts invaded her mind as she and Garrus grappled. She got to her feet, and he leapt to his. She threw some punches, to judge how quick he was. Very quick. He dodged her blows easily, then brought in a few of his own. The Turian martial fighting style was unlike anything Shepard had ever trained against. At once rigid and fluid, combining both Turian militaristic precision and the speed and grace of a predator. Shepard found her own training in hand-to-hand combat sorely tested. She was smaller and more lithe than Garrus, and she was able to wriggle out of most of his holds. Even through her armor, his fists hit like hammers. He didn't pull a single punch. She swept at his legs. He danced away. He moved to grapple her into another hold, but she slid nimbly away from his grip. The two of them went on and on until they both collapsed with a clang of armor against the metal floor. They crawled towards one another until their foreheads were touching. Shepard was drenched in sweat. Her armor was going to need a thorough wash. Turians did not sweat, but she could feel the heat being released from the membrane behind his mandibles. They both panted. She raised an arm and rested her hand on the back of his neck. They remained in that position for several minutes. Then they rose together, neither of them uttering a sound. Garrus watched her, as though trying to read her. Was she going to explode again? She gave him a wan smile, dipping her head in a weary bow. He copied the gesture. The two of them then removed their armor, setting each piece on a waiting rack to be cleaned. Then, in only their underarmor, they joined hands and walked together to the lift. Shepard, no longer bleeding from her lip, and sporting sore-cut hands from her bare-knuckle boxing with an armored Turian, was feeling refreshed, and was about to call her crew together for another meeting when the comm beeped before her finger could touch it. "That's not a good sign," she sighed to herself. Garrus had gone to his own quarters to bathe, saving himself the embarrassment of another shower scene. Liara's face appeared again, and Shepard's heart gave a little lurch. "You made contact." Her voice was almost pleading. "I did," the Asari beamed. "Finally, some good news." Shepard pulled on a uniform. She'd had enough of civilian clothes. It was time to get back to being a soldier. "I'll be right there." She didn't even turn off her comm as she left the room. "Talk to me." Shepard strode into Liara's quarters, ignoring Glyph, who zipped excitedly around her head. "Balak did it," Liara said, standing up from where she had been leaning to look at the screen. Shepard stepped in and took her friend's place, her eyes going wide with excitement as she saw the face waiting there. "Jake!" She shouted his name, and he laughed, making a show of waggling a pinky finger in his ear with a dramatic wince. "Good to see you too, Commander. Liara's been filling me in on your situation. Sounds pretty messed up. We've got Reapers and active relays. You've got dead Reapers, and the relay's still down. Not exactly a fair trade." "No, it was not," Shepard agreed. She could feel her hands trembling and clasp them together, hoping no one would notice. Her anger and self-loathing over the whole situation was giving her a tough time. "Balak found you?" "He did," Jacob nodded. "Brought me here. I was pretty sure it was a trap, but I couldn't figure out what the hell a lone Batarian would have to gain from bringing me to an old Cerberus base. Plus, he kept saying you sent him, and, to be honest, my curiosity got the better of me." "I'm glad it did," Shepard breathed. "Now we just need to figure out what to do with the situation we're in." "What have you done with the Reapers on your end?" Jacob asked. "We've burned most of the abominations, but the ships themselves are tough to destroy. I had a plan to get inside and pilot them into the sun, but it didn't work." "Wait, go inside? Wouldn't that just indoctrinate you?" Jacob's expression had become suspicious. His dark eyes seemed to be searching Shepard's features for signs of Reaper tech. "That's another long story." Shepard sighed, rubbing her hand against the stubbly hair at the back of her neck. "Before I explain, is Balak all right?" "Yeah," Jacob nodded, jabbing a thumb over his shoulder. "He's back there, playing watchdog. I patched him up, and he's as good as new. Too bad Metagel can't do anything for his personality. How's Bryn? In hiding. The young soldier's face fell. I managed to get some of my people to safety for now. Who knows how long they will stay safe. Damn it, I wish you were here, Shepard. I wish I was too, more than anything, Shepard said, her throat getting dangerously tight. I'm so sorry, Jake. I'm letting you all down. Hey, you're alive and so is the Sol system. We thought you all got wiped out. This is good news, believe it or not. Well, decent news. Confusing news. Jacob chuckled. Shepard felt a surge of appreciation. The ex-Cerberus soldier could keep his mood light in the toughest situations. He didn't crack wise like Joker or Garrus, but always kept a feeling of optimism about him that Shepard was grateful for on many occasions. Even on their suicide mission, Jacob had maintained that they would come out alive. A thought struck Shepard. Jake, how are the geth where you are? Jacob seemed to ponder the right words for a moment. Limited, he finally answered. Limited? Liara repeated, confused. With so few geth units remaining here, they can't gather as much information as they'd like. They're spreading themselves thin to get more platforms into combat, and as a result they're not as... I guess smart is the only word for it? But they're working. They're not dead? Dead? No, why would they be? Here, the geth went down at the same time as the Reapers, and Edie, because of the Reaper code inherent in their systems, Shepard explained, her knuckles going white as her hands clenched. She had to focus to unlace her tensed digits from one another. But your geth are alive? For the moment, Jacob nodded. They've been throwing themselves against the Reapers. The geth and Arya are probably the only reason we're still here. God, Shepard moaned, running a hand through her hair. I'm so sorry, Jake. So you keep saying, he shot her an encouraging smile. Now we know you're alive, we'll figure this out. I've got my people working on it, they've got nothing better to do. Stay in contact here, Shepard said. I want to be able to reach someone at all times. I'll move my people to this base ASAP. Joker glanced around. It's pretty beat up, but it'll last, and the Reapers seem to be ignoring it because it's been abandoned. All right, please be careful, Shepard said. Aren't I always? Jacob gave her a cocky smile before turning to leave their view. He kept the comlink on, Shepard noticed with appreciation. She felt much better knowing that they were no longer alone in the galaxy, even if it did mean that she had apparently doomed even more people than she had thought. There were still geth alive out there. Perhaps they could help repair their fallen brothers if anyone could figure out how to reunite them. Shepard chewed the inside of her cheek as she stared at the elusive man's chair, empty where Jacob had left it. She wasn't really seeing the chair. Her mind was buzzing like a confused hive. What to do, how to do it, where could they turn? Shepard, I found you! Shepard had been so focused she hadn't heard Leora's doors hiss open and close. Tali, how are you feeling? Shepard greeted her friend. Much better. I'm sorry I passed out on you back on the Reaper. I don't know what happened. It's all right, Shepard waved the memory away as though it was a pesky gnat. Did you have something to tell me? Yes. I had my colleagues on the flotilla racking their brains to think of ways to destroy the Reaper corpses. Then it hit us. Geth ships have grappling cables. Strong enough to tow a Reaper? Shepard felt excitement rising in spite of her better judgment. I believe so. I think that if we get a few Geth ships together, we can haul the Reapers into the Earth's sun. Won't that be dangerous? Liara asked, though she too seemed to be intrigued by the idea. We quarians have been living in space all our lives. Flying ships is what we do. If we release the grapplers at the right time, we can easily launch the Reapers into the sun and escape ourselves. Are your people on board for this plan? Shepard questioned as she began to walk the two women towards the door. Glyph, alert me if anyone calls from the elusive man's base, Liara instructed the drone, which bobbed up and down as though feeding off of their excitement. Shepard wondered at her own ability to go from almost panicked to hopeful. This may have been the only reason she had survived this long, through all she had seen. Her mind was able to quickly switch from hopeless to determined, from beaten to vicious in seconds. She idly wondered how she would have fared in civilian life. What if she had not decided to become a soldier? Could she manage as a housewife, a career woman? Not that it would matter now. What with the Reaper attack, if she had chosen another life, it would likely have ended when the machine monsters tried to take over their planet. Tali had been explaining the plan as they walked. Shepard realized her mind had been introspective most of the way. She blinked a few times as though emerging from underwater. Tally gave her a questioning look. Sounds good, as long as your people are up for it. We have all these geth ships just floating around helping no one. Why not put them to good use? Exactly, Tally said, sounding pleased that her plan was Shepard's new favorite. I'll inform the fleet. The quarian left, and Shepard looked around, realizing where she was standing. She was on the bridge, the galaxy map spreading before her like a promise. Liara tilted her head, giving Shepard a questioning look. Shepard stepped up the short ramp to stand before the map. She stretched out a hand. Lights appeared beneath each of her fingertips. She curled her fingers into a fist, and the map zoomed in. She flicked her hand to the side, and stars and planets whipped past her eyes. They reflected on her skin and dark uniform, as though she were a part of the map, immersed in its depths. While she knew that the relays were not active, and the map had no current information about the rest of the galaxy, she still curled her hand, then drew it to the right, bringing Palaven into view before her, the home of her mate. She let Palaven go, instead bringing Rannoch to her palm. She ached to set course, send the signal to Joker in his pilot seat, to send her beautiful ship sparking through space towards the known and unknown. She felt like a tiger in a trap. She would be free again, if it took everything she had.